So thanks for the systems thinking intro, Charlotte. I really like this quote that I came across recently. It says by Petra Kunkel that any sustainability challenges we're dealing with are actually the result of fragmented thinking. And so systems thinking for me is about relational thinking, learning to see the world as relationships, dynamic relationships rather than parts. And there's a lot of literature and a lot of theory about that. And so my project is about how can we make systems thinking a more common and accessible practice. So I've developed a deck of cards to help people do that. I really like this description of systems thinking, that systems thinking is contextual. It's actually about putting things together rather than taking them apart, which is analysis. And so I hope that these cards can help people see in a more systemic and relational way. Leaning on the Buckminster Fuller quote that you cannot change how someone thinks, but you can give them a tool to use, which will lead them to think differently. So I hope this can be that tool. Cards for Life is 66 cards in 3 suits. And the reason why they are being, dynamics, and doing, these 3 suits, is that with systems thinking and the regenerative thinking and regenerative paradigm that I hope will ensue with more systems literate people and projects, is that we start with being rather than just being in the doing mode all the time. So that can help people slow down and think about quality of experience. So usually the cards start when people use them with being and checking into the experience first. Then dynamics is life's dynamics, the dynamics of complex systems. So this is the kind of systems literacy suit. And then ways of doing are inspirations for regenerative actions. So I hope that makes sense, starting with the being, learning from life's dynamics, and then planning actions from there, which will have a kind of regenerative flavor that are for life. There's thousands of different ways of combining a deck of cards. So they're really generative. They're great as an ideation tool. The cards also have 2 sides. So one side, the mythos, that's the kind of the symbolic thinking with the image, with a poetic phrase, and an invitation to how one personally relates to that concept. This is impermanence from the dynamic set. And then the other side of the card speaks more to the kind of neocortex, the rational mind, which is a series of questions. It's much more cognitive, much more kind of goal-oriented. So the idea is that we can kind of appeal to both of those modes in which we think and relate. And that the first side of the card can be slightly more oriented towards personal practice. And the other side of the card is orienting towards systemic change. So relationships, organizations, projects. And so that's a kind of a central idea in the cards, is that they connect inner and outer work. And that there's both of those directions to all of these concepts. So I got 50 packs of cards printed off on sustainably printed using green energy and recycled materials and vegan inks, and sent them out to about 49 people, because I have the 50th pack, in about 15 different countries now, management consultants, facilitators, educators, and they're testing out these different ways of using the cards. So there's a systems literacy practice, observing nature and its dynamics, and a way of just drawing the cards for your own sort of inner inquiry. And then I have 2 collective exercises. One is a being circle, help people to relate and check in interpersonally, and then a much more project-oriented kind of mind mapping exercise. And now I've just developed a workshop that takes a whole group through each of the 3 sets of cards, thanks to a group I'm in with Charlotte, actually. Tom, on purpose, I'm gonna take his team through the cards. So I've just got to here where I've had people testing the cards for nearly 2 months, got loads of really positive feedback. I'm integrating all of that now into a final design. This is a beta version that's been launched of the cards, feeling really confident about the product. Now it's been quite well tested. And then I plan to crowdfund and raise to produce the cards February, March, and launch the product in April next year. I've mostly written the booklet that accompanies them. The product's nearly there. It needs a little bit of tweaking and a bit of design finessing on the actual cards themselves, but it's broadly done. I have an idea for a digital layer so that when people are using the cards, they can quite quickly share insights and inspirations from those cards in a web platform. It's needs some development, that thinking, and I'm trying to keep the project simple and run in quite rapid iterations rather than solve it all and raise big. So that seems to be working so far. And the idea is to develop this kind of community of practice around the cards, training people to use them, train others to use them, even getting organizations to adopt them. And so there's this kind of shared language with a system syncing view to help people collaborate and see the world in this way. The application might look something like this. You could share an insight from a card. Someone else searching the platform could see that insight. There might be a way of getting organizations or particular groups to speak to each other as well.